Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Process Podcast. Team, welcome back to another episode of the Process Podcast. With me today, two lovely ladies, Tamarind
Yo.
and Lotte.
Hello.
How you doing, guys?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you.
Welcome back, Tammy.
Thank
Been a
you.
while. You've been out of town for quite a long time, changing the world, having a bit of a holiday.
Yeah,
Is it good to be back?
it really is. I have always had an appreciation for what we have here, but each time I leave, I become even more grateful. So yeah, it's really lovely to know that I'm doing what I want to be doing in life with the people that I want to be doing it with. I have an incredible partner. I have an incredible country that I live in. And yeah, I'm just happy to have routine for sure.
That's something I always miss when I travel.
Yeah.
It's really good to have you back.
Thanks.
I know we're going to talk about all your stuff that you've been doing around the world. Maybe we'll say that for another time.
Sure.
But we'll move on to you, Lotte. You have also been on a bit of a holiday, haven't you? The old COVID
Yeah.
holiday.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say it's a holiday, but I've been out for a week. Yeah, tested positive last week, but I'm all negative today.
This is your second time with COVID.
Second time,
How-
almost like a year.
How was it?
this
How was it
time.
compared to the first time?
My symptoms were pretty much the same. Like
Mm.
I actually didn't suffer too badly. I just had a bit of like a nose and a chesty cough. But yeah, 1 year on, pretty much same. I think I slept a bit more this time. And I could definitely feel like when I look at even like my Oura Ring stats, like I look at my body temperature and my heart rate and stuff, like I could definitely feel something coming on, but overall, not too bad. Yeah.
Interesting. I love being able to connect the dots on things like sicknesses, illnesses, and injuries.
Yeah.
And just seeing like the little signs and warning signals. And when you have data like the Oura Ring,
Yeah.
it's even cooler.
It was really cool. Like at the beginning of last week, I could see it coming up in just like my body temperature and stuff. And now like on hindsight, I'm like, oh, that makes total
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, ladies, I'd love to talk about what's happening in your lives, but that's not what we're here about today.
We don't care about you.
Today, what we're here about is we're here to play a little game of Overrated, Underrated. We haven't played one of these in a long time, but for listeners tuning in for the very first time for this little game, it's not really a game. There's no points or anything. There is no winner either. But essentially, we have 10 topics. Some are coaching, health, lifestyle related. Some are totally not. And we have to quickly state whether it's something that's overrated in your humble opinion or it's something that is underrated. And I might ask you why. So be ready to share your thoughts if asked.
Sure.
Sound good? Are we ready to go?
That's great.
Ready.
So we have 10 topics here. These 10 topics were brainstormed between the team.
Okay.
It started as a list of about 20, and we shortlisted it to 10 good ones.
I wasn't here. It's all
You
a
weren't
secret.
here.
I'm a
Lottie
little bit
knows some of them.
nervous.
I know some of them.
Okay.
Okay, now remember the overrated, underrated. It needs to be quick fire. Whatever comes to you first, speak from your gut, share it, shout it in the mic, and then we will expand. We
Do
ready
we do
to
it
go?
at the same time?
Yeah, I feel like I'm on a buzzer.
Or one at a time.
There's no buzzers here. We probably will have a buzzer one day. And for people tuning on YouTube, you will probably see that this new studio, has had a serious facelift. So we are making strides to improve the podcast in every way, shape, and form. But so maybe
process
one
buzzer.
day we'll have a buzzer. Yeah, but for now, no buzzers. Don't even need to make a noise or do anything weird like that. You just say overrated or underrated.
I think
Still,
last time we did this, we had noises.
Do we have noises?
Yeah. It was like me, you, Anne, and was it Skull or Liam? And he was like that one. Do you remember?
We
had
did
noises.
have that.
We don't need noises today.
No, let's not do that. I feel like that's more appropriate to if there was a question posed and someone had, because you didn't get extra points for saying overrated or underrated first.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for the suggestion.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Do we all say it at the same time, or is it going to be like Ed, Tammy, Lotte?
Whoever goes first and then whoever goes next. We're just
Alright,
going to go
whatever
off the
comes to
cuff.
you.
We'll see what
Okay,
happens. We'll probably
perfect.
change the rules of this game as we start playing.
All right.
Okay, first one. Are we ready to go, ladies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First one, overrated or underrated? Air fryers.
Underrated.
Lottie says underrated.
I feel like there's a lot of hype around them.
Okay,
so
that's neither
Yep.
overrated or underrated.
Underrated.
Underrated?
Yep.
I'm also going to say underrated.
Sure.
Lottie, you jumped first and that sounded like a very assuring underrated. Why?
I just love my air fryer.
Why?
Actually, especially over the last week, it's got a hell of a lot of use. But also, so in my apartment in Hong Kong, I don't own an oven or anything like that. So I just have a kitchen stove, and I find it is amazing. It's a lot faster than if I did have an oven or anything like that.
Yeah.
No oil or anything like that.
Don't have to preheat. That's
Yeah.
Don't have to
something
preheat
it.
we all
It's
have air
so
fryers, don't we?
quick. Yeah.
Yeah. When
I think
I
that's why we're all like
when I
gung-ho
first
with the air fryers.
when I first got an air fryer, I think I was like one of the last ones in this team to have one, and I'd never ever heard of an air fryer before that, and I couldn't believe it. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only
They
like
went
a
through
couple
like
of years
bit
ago.
of a craze like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I feel like it's the healthier alternative. Okay, I do have
Yeah.
a couple of criticisms of an air fryer.
Ooh.
One is the space. I have quite a big air fryer, but if you want to do like a big whole chicken, for example,
Yeah.
it's a bit problematic. And
Really?
number two, cleaning. Cleaning the air fryer is a bit of a bitch, if I'm honest.
It's big, but then the inside space
Mm.
is small.
Takes up space, but you
Yeah.
can't get that much food in there.
You can't get a whole chicken in yours? Or is it just like a bit of a squeeze?
It's a bit of a squeeze.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the
Mine
the
fits
cleaning part,
perfectly.
is pretty annoying for me. Do you
Why
not
is it
find?
annoying?
Because you got 3 layers. You got to take out the basket, then you got to clean all that,
Yeah.
and then you got to go
Mm.
that little mesh thing. You got to not the mesh, but the thing that sits
The
on the
grate
bottom.
thing,
You got to
yeah,
pick
yeah,
that
yeah.
up, and then you
Yeah.
got to go inside the bowl. I don't
Mm.
know. I got a small
I do
sink,
get
so
that, yeah. Do you clean it after like every day after you use it?
if it's like a moist object that I'm cooking, sounded disgusting.
What moist object?
Like a chicken, for example.
okay,
A
okay.
chicken's very juicy. Juicy is probably a better way of putting it. But if I cook something juicy, then there's loads of stuff there. Otherwise, if I'm just, I don't eat croissants, but my partner
Yeah.
Cami eats croissants all the time, and that doesn't drip or anything, so it
Right,
doesn't
I
need to
see
be
what you mean.
cleaned.
Mm.
Yeah.
I do agree with the cleaning a little bit,
Mm.
but in terms of space, everything that I kind of cook in my air fryer, I have a pretty big one. Which air fryer do you have?
I don't know, Philip's
Yeah.
big one.
My big chicken fixing it. Anyway,
Yeah.
I quite enjoy
There
it,
you
so I don't find the space an issue. It takes up quite a bit on my counter, so it actually lives like underneath, and it's a mission to get it out and put it up on top.
Mm.
But I agree with the cleaning. But I love it compared to an oven. Like in the apartment that I was staying in before, they had an oven as well, and I didn't use it. I just used my air fryer the whole time.
Yeah. Why don't we go through some pros? Because I feel like a really good thing about it is I know you can set a timer on an oven, but normally you have to go on. I mean, I don't really have a modern day.
Preheat.
Yeah. But you have to preheat it. Normally you have to turn it off yourself. An air fryer kind of just turns off itself. You can lift up the handle on ours and it just stops the heat, but the timer will keep running if you need it to. Doesn't need that much preheating. Yeah, space wise,
No
especially
extra oils and stuff.
yeah,
on top.
especially for places like Hong Kong where we don't have ovens. It's a really great alternative. And I think of the pans and stuff when you do baking in a regular oven. Like, it's hard to get the grime and stuff off of those. So I wonder if, solution for you, you could get one of those like baking tray things. Like, they have them for like macaroons specifically.
I know what you mean. Like the baking paper, almost.
It's not even, yeah, but
You can
it's
get
like
a baking
silicone.
tray for an
it's
air fryer.
silicone.
But does that not then stop the crisping of it? I have a feeling, no.
So so in your air fryer, you pop it on top, like you take the grated bit out and then you put the thing in. So it doesn't,
Done that before.
so that you can get a separate tray to buy with it, so that you just put the tray in, the grate comes out, and then it
Oh.
doesn't drip down the bottom.
Okay.
So your juicy, moist chickens, there's your problem.
Okay, wow, thank
solution.
you. Great solution. Thank you, guys.
In fact,
Okay.
I have
No
a
worries.
spare one. I might have to.
Yeah, please. Maybe more than one, but one's a good start.
All right.
Thank you
check
for the
that at home.
solution. Okay, air fryers are resounding underrated. Moving
Yes.
on to number 2. Are we
Yes.
ready?
Yep.
Speedos on men. So, I mean, in the rugby circles, it's like we refer to it as
Overrated.
budgies, like budgie smugglers, because that's the brand that does it. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on Speedos on men? Can I just start? I'm going to say overrated. as well.
Overrated.
Overrated.
There's gonna be lots of guys listening to this who be gutted to hear it. I'm gonna ask you guys as females, because obviously as men we're normally putting on budgies because part of it we pretend it's for banter and we pretend it's a laugh, but really it's to try and impress, I would say, potential mates.
Is that why it is?
Oh, maybe I'm just speaking on behalf of myself and projecting it onto the rest of the male
Interesting.
population. But I genuinely thought I looked good in that
That's
I
so
would be
good.
more desirable.
Oh,
And
really?
it's also kind of
Oh.
like, oh, it's funny that he's wearing budgies, but it's actually not very funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, please share why
I mean,
why
it's
is
attention grabbing, isn't it? So
Yeah,
that's,
it's a
maybe
bit
that's what you
attention.
get them.
that was what I was really doing, to be honest. Yeah.
I think for me, it was just like growing up, teenage boys at the time wore boardies, and boardies looked good and casual. And then it was like the weird old dads with like dad
Yeah,
bods
my dad.
rocking the Speedos. And you were like, oh my goodness, I can see everything, which is obviously why it's a budgie smuggler.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, I don't particularly love the look of it. I don't mind, but I'm more attracted to someone wearing board shorts. And that's just, I think, preference based on where I grew up and what they were doing. Obviously now I think it's changed a little bit in Oz, but yeah.
Lottie?
I just like the look of board shorts better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an easy answer.
I also think I don't know, maybe
It's the type
I
of board
think
short too.
it's the type of board short, but also Speedos. I feel like Speedos and budgie smugglers are slightly different. Like Speedos, when I think about it,
You're
is
thinking
like
about Michael Phelps.
I think of like
a really good
kind
swimmer.
of Michael Phelps, or like, you know, nippers in like when you're doing nippers
Like
in
surf
Sydney or something like that.
lifesaving.
Yeah, and I think of that kind of surf guy.
So
But not casual.
functional
Functional.
Speedos.
Yeah, functional where you
Right.
swim in as well. There's kind of Speedos. Whereas budgie smugglers are like the rugby
Bit
boys.
of a laugh.
They're quite like, and you can tell that they're wearing them to get your attention. And it works because it gets my attention, but in the wrong way. Because then I kind of just think like there's a guy behind that I'm like,
Do you think insecurity? Because I think
Yeah.
when I used to wear budgie smugglers, I was probably a lot more insecure than I am now.
I think to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Because
know.
they're almost like peacocking that they have to
It's
do
a strange.
it
It's
too
not an
much.
insecurity in terms of like showing your manhood, but it's an
Yeah.
insecurity in terms of, maybe like you're not enough
Yeah.
without the budgies. You know.
Right. I just feel like it's like trying to fit in or trying to make a statement that's different.
Mm.
I
But
think guys in Hong Kong wear them like a ridiculous amount. I think it's severely
Good for tan
overrated.
lines. I'm gonna.
Good for
admit
tan
that.
lines,
tan lines.
But in my opinion, I find guys in a board short way more attractive.
Okay, fair. Anyway, that's three overrated.
Yep.
For Speedos. Moving on to the next one. I feel like we may have a divide here.
Ooh.
Tattoos. Overrated from Ed.
underrated from
From
Tammi.
Tammy. Or we can have drum roll. That was a drum roll.
Oh, I actually don't know.
3, 2, 1.
I'm going to say overrated.
Okay, the only reason I like to start because I jumped first. I like tattoos on other people. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I don't have any tattoos. I'm saying overrated because I used to really want tattoos, and I think especially in this industry. And I got asked whilst in Indonesia on our coaching trip, probably about 3 times why I didn't have any tattoos.
I was one of them.
Were you one of them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, me with the 4th then. Definitely 3 people that aren't normally in my circles. But I do think in this industry, especially like the fitness coaching industry, I probably say I'm in the minority of people who do, by not having tattoos. And I think an initial allure to me was to be different, was why I wanted to have it. And I feel like
Yeah.
I'm almost now different by not having them.
Yeah.
Then the second part to this, because I've thought about this question because it got asked so much, was I think I don't really appreciate visual arts that much. So like I don't look at art and think, I really like the look of that and appreciate it. And so therefore like a design or I don't know, an artwork on my body doesn't really appeal to me as much anymore.
Yeah, I understand your point for sure. I think it just depends what you're after. Like, I'm not doing these things particularly to be different because if anything, you know me, I want to blend in a way. Like, I don't like the limelight. I don't want people to be like, oh, she's just trying to do something. But it's something that represents me and it's a timestamp. I love the fact that I'm spending money on something that's on me forever because it's like, this was a moment in time that I just have memories of. Whether or not it was something that I love or don't love as much anymore, it doesn't matter. That's I guess the way that I see it. And like, yeah, there's an appreciation of visual art, and you know that I'm like quite creative and I draw a lot of my tattoos and things like that. But yeah, I think maybe the intention behind a tattoo would be why it's either overrated or underrated.
Yeah, massive. Thank you for sharing. And I love that you have like clarity on what tattoos mean to you and why you love them.
Yeah.
Lottie?
I'm a bit stuck with this one because I do like really appreciate tattoos and the arts behind it and like the stories, and like you said, you know, people have emotional attachments to them, the timestamps and everything like that. I don't have any myself. I know that in my life I most likely will. You know, I don't have any plans to get it right now. But I'm a little bit torn because I feel like I do like them. I like the look of them and I can appreciate them on many people's different bodies. But I think at one point they almost became fashionable to have like too many for just like random show. And I think that's when I feel like at some point they're a bit overrated, because if they do have meaning behind them and, you know, your body is a work of art and they're a timestamp and you like the look of them, by all means, you know, you do you. I think at some point it became like I'm going to have them to be different. Whereas like you said, it's like almost if you don't have them, you're different now.
Yeah. And I think that was a bad reason for me to want to get a tattoo, was to be different.
Yeah.
That's probably like
Yeah,
the
I
insecure
agree with
younger
that.
version of me
Whereas I
wanting to
know-
stand out
Yeah.
with
sorry.
my budgie smugglers. Yeah.
But if I was to get a tattoo, I would get it for that like personal, meaningful kind of like artistic reason rather than just to
Yeah.
like have it for show and you understand what I'm saying?
Yep, totally.
I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, it's like not necessarily a fashion statement for me, but I can understand how other people, it's like the same as why do you wear the clothes that you wear? You know, like to some people it's an expression of themselves, and it doesn't necessarily need to mean, you know, like have these sentimental values attached to it or anything. It's just like, this is where I'm in life and I just wanted this.
Are you attracted to guys more with attracted more to guys with tattoos?
I think, you know, my array of types is quite broad.
It is very
I'm
broad.
attracted to humans, everyone.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Like, I like people without tattoos. Like, clean is nice, but I also like people with tattoos.
It's interesting that you chose the word clean.
Like, clean as in...
No, I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah.
it's interesting the word choice of clean as
Clean
opposed
skin.
A
to...
clean look, I think, is quite
clean look.
often given to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you attracted to clean girls or tattooed girls?
Yeah. Showering's. I strongly encourage showering
Do you like
and
your
cleansing. No preference.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
dated like a heavily inked up girl before.
Yeah.
I think younger me was quite intimidated by girls with lots of tattoos. I just thought, I don't know. I think as a youngster, it was like that was a bad boy. I grew up in an era where like you were a rebel if you got tattoos, and so maybe I was intimidated because I thought that girl was more rebellious than me and didn't like that.
Question for you guys.
Yeah.
Do you judge people's tattoos?
No, definitely not.
Right.
No.
There we go.
I
was
find them
just
very
interested.
intriguing.
Yeah.
If anything,
I like
it
asking
like-
questions about.
Yeah, it intrigues me. I kind of
motive.
like want to know about them a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the next one.
Yep.
I feel like this is something that is trending a little bit, especially in the coffee world, and because I am a newly acquainted coffee snob, I think about this quite a lot.
This is why he hasn't been sleeping. It's not the duvet.
Exactly. Okay, so oat milk, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Overrated.
Sorry, that was really loud.
Overrated.
everyone.
Overrated. Yeah.
Underrated. Tammy, start, please.
Okay, well, I guess mine is a completely biased opinion, but I probably don't like coffee as much as the coffee people out there. Like, there is no way that I would sit there and drink a double espresso. Please give me a cup of oat milk that
Not
is
a purist.
warm with a drop, like literally a drop of coffee, and I'm like, this is it. Honestly, if I got a baby chino with just oat milk, I'd be pretty stoked.
What's a baby chino?
Just the froth.
Just milk.
Oh.
Yeah, just the froth. It's for kids, so they can go along with their parents and they can have
Make a
something
little bit
that
of chocolate.
resembles a coffee.
Gotcha. Cute.
But no, in honesty, I've always liked malt-like flavors or like nutty flavors, and I feel as though the blend with the dark blend or more of like a chocolatey roast is really lovely and less acidic. I think, yeah, it just feels nice on my stomach. I just like the way it makes me feel personally.
Nice. Lottie, why overrated?
Don't get me wrong. I like oat milk. I like the taste of it. I think it just... I like pure black coffee.
But
But what
so
it
not
was-
like a milk.
I do like milky coffees.
So you don't have milk with anything else in your life other than coffee?
No.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't have cereal or anything like that. If I was to have like a milky coffee, I'd actually have it with almond milk. Sorry, environment.
Yeah.
My bad. I do like the taste of oat milk, but my first choice is like a pure black coffee or anything like that. So
Let's just define that it's the barista version.
For your
because that
coffee.
is so different.
Oatly barista.
Yeah.
It can be some other brands, but barista version.
Well, I went underrated because I am lactose intolerant. And so for I'd probably say the first like 18 years of my life, I drank milk and couldn't piece together why I had the shits. So then basically when I realized I was lactose intolerant, the only option really was soy milk, and I just didn't like soy milk. Don't like the taste of it. I'm not a massive fan of the health side of soy as well.
Yeah.
And so when oat milk came out and it was actually tasty, like Oatly after it was the first kind of variation I tried, I was like, okay, this is awesome. I finally feel like I'm being, because I did lactose free milk, which was kind of like a UHT, like the long life milk, but it just wasn't quite the same. I think Ant has that, doesn't he? So I'm a massive fan of oat milk, but I also have it in my oatmeal every morning. So I actually have oat milk quite a bit. I'm a black
I would
coffee
say
guy.
The only time I have milk is with coffee. So
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of milk in general.
Like I would choose oat milk to put like if I was to have like my protein shake, if I was to have cereal, if I was to make a hot chocolate or anything. Like I just prefer oat milk flavor.
I've actually never had just a glass of oat milk.
It's delicious.
Never.
I have.
Or I haven't tried a chocolate oat milk either.
warm.
That is
I've
good.
had the chocolate oat milk.
Chocolate oat milk's really good.
Chocolate
milk.
With your cereal. Oh my goodness, Ed, you should try it. Yeah, it's good.
That would be a real throwback for me. I
So
used to have
yeah.
it used to be, what was the oatmeal squares? You know, the Quaker Oats
The
oatmeal
cinnamon
squares.
ones or, like,
Yeah, that's when
original?
I've read the maple syrup
Yeah.
ones.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd read that oatmeal was good for you.
Yeah.
And like shamefully, this is while I was a personal trainer, by the way. This is like first year of coaching people. Yeah, oatmeal is good for you. So I was like, oh yeah, I love oatmeal squares. Didn't realize till like a year later they were like drenched in sugar and maple syrup. And I'd have oatmeal squares, and I'd buy full fat milk. Obviously, have the shits all day. I'd put a scoop of Nesquik into it, shake it.
Delicious.
Yeah, shake the chocolate Nesquik, pour it over my oatmeal squares, and that would be my breakfast for about a year. Then I'd be pooing all day coaching people.
I mean, despite the, okay, let's take out being lactose intolerant, because obviously we know in nutrition terms, the things that are bad for you are things you're maybe allergic to or have like bad intolerances to. Why is it a bad breakfast?
Why was that a bad breakfast? Just because, I wasn't really prioritizing. I didn't really have much nutritionally dense food in my diet at the time anyway. I was pretty stressed. I wouldn't say my training volume warranted high calorie, high carbohydrate food. So in hindsight, probably wasn't great. And like very first thing in my day, like a big spike in sugars. Yes. Yeah. And like, turning my digestive system into a washing machine. Probably that wasn't the best way to start my day. Yeah, exactly. But thanks for bringing some context into the question. Thank you. Okay, question number 5, halfway. Overrated or underrated? Indoor plants.
Oh my God, underrated.
Underrated
as well. Did you guys grow up with a lot of plants in your house?
I actually can't. I know my mom's like really into flowers, and we always had like some sort of decor that was plant-like, but I don't think it was necessarily. Actually, no, we always had indoor plants. Yeah,
Lots of them.
Same. Yeah.
quite a few.
I wouldn't say I appreciated them until much later in life. And I think I was just listening to a podcast about like getting old.
Yes.
And there's a few things that this podcast was talking about. It wasn't a podcast about getting old. He just started talking about it.
I like plants.
Yeah. It was like, like there's lots of things I was like nodding my head being like, yeah, that's me. Music.
Oh my God.
As you get older, you stop listening to music as much just because of noises. And number 2 is like connection with animals and nature. That's why all old people in England buy bird tables and like those bird feeding things. And then
I'm Benjamin Button.
yeah, you're going the opposite way. And then plants.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing as you get older. I remember like when I was younger, I just remember saying this thing to my grandparents. I was like, wow, you really know you're old when like you're really into ferns.
Yeah. I think.
But I love plants. I've actually always loved them.
Yeah.
It's
Now I
I've
really love them.
always liked nature, but I have a better appreciation for them now. But now think of it, we always had plants at home.
I don't know if mine was an age thing. I think I've always really, really enjoyed being outside and being in nature. And I think maybe took it a little bit more for granted because I didn't recognize that was what I had around me all the time. But it wasn't until I moved to places like Abu Dhabi or lived here in Hong Kong where you have more of an apartment life and it's not the birds chirping in the backyard with like, my dad has a huge green thumb and we've always had incredible
What's a green
gardens.
thumb?
Someone who just is really good with plants and tends
Never
to
heard that expression before.
Yeah.
No.
So he has always we were always in the gardening because obviously once you have a nice garden, you have to maintain it and it takes quite a lot. So that was just what I grew up with. So when I didn't have it, I was like, I need life in my house. Like this isn't what I'm used to. So
also you get to that age that you're like, I'm responsible for plant babies.
Yeah, I enjoy that. I actually enjoy that.
Is that why you enjoyed killing them all?
I had them all the time at university.
Tried my very best.
Yeah.
Did you have them at uni?
No.
I had my plant babies at uni.
I wasn't into plants and didn't appreciate them.
Yeah. There was a moment where Ant had become fixated with plants and we had our indoor plants, and because he was the one that was leaving the house later, he tended to them and watered them and nurtured them and cared for them, and he kept I'd come home and I was like a kid being like, look, there's a new leaf. Oh my God, look at this. Did you know this and this and this? And he was like filling me with all the facts. And I was like, yeah, that's so cool. That's awesome. And then he left for his trip for that 6-month period. Oh, no. And I was like sending him photos being like, look, there's a new leaf. I think it's like once you
actually,
start
you send them to me as well. You definitely sent them
I
to
can't
me.
believe you didn't like my plant book then that I bought for Ant.
Okay,
Didn't
like
you give that to...
the
So listeners,
encyclopedia of
I bought
plants.
You re-gifted it again.
I bought a plant encyclopedia book for Ant, being like, oh, he's gonna love this because he loves plants.
When did he last read a book? Come on.
I don't know. It's a picture book. I thought he liked picture books.
Okay.
And then about 9 months later, Tammy's like clearing out the house when Ant's not there, and she brings in the plant book I'd just given him for Christmas 6 months ago, and it was still in the wrapping. It's literally still in the plastic wrapping. She's like, yeah, does anyone want this? I'm like, I just gifted him
I gave
that.
it to Andrew, who
Did Andrew take it?
obviously- Yeah, who
Oh, I'm
obviously
glad it went to a
appreciate-
good
he
home.
just got a new house, and I was like, what a great housewarming gift from us.
Ant still doesn't know that that's not in your
Yeah, he
house and it's
doesn't
been
know-
gifted to
doesn't
Andrew.
own it anymore.
Okay, to be fair, I gave everything that I threw out like a year. I was like, he hasn't touched it in a year.
6
But
months.
now he's like, where's this? I'm like, it's gone.
That's so strange. Okay, moving on. Indoor plants, all saying underrated.
Yep.
Next one. Going a bit left field for this one. Overrated or underrated? Masturbation.
Wow. Underrated?
Oh, you didn't sound sure.
No, underrated.
Yeah, you sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll tell you why after.
Okay, please. Lottie,
I'm going to go with underrated.
underrated. Oh, you had to think about that as well. I'm a resounding underrated.
Because, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
What?
Underrated.
Underrated.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Well
you
then,
see. Okay,
why? We're gonna-
I'm happy to start.
Yeah.
I just think it's very natural. I think feels bloody good.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
I think it's actually, this is a good question. No one's actually really ever asked me why masturbation.
You haven't asked yourself?
No, I haven't asked myself the actual question. I like it. I know this sounds this sounds strange, but I like it as a check-in to see if I'm healthy.
Me too.
So I actually use it. If I'm easily aroused, I know that that's
Yeah.
indicative that my system is healthy.
I agree with that.
And so actually sometimes if I've gone through a bit of a patch where I haven't done it, I'll think, okay, I think I need to just make sure
Yeah.
everything's functioning well.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And I just kind of jumped into my head. Something I've definitely been, and I've shared a lot in this office. I'm not sure if I shared it on the podcast, but listeners, you're about to
Ed
learn
shares
now.
everything.
But yeah, porn is definitely something I've been changing my mind on a lot.
Yeah.
I think growing up with it was super accessible and just a thing that you watched, and especially within my peer group. And now I'm actually really pulling myself away from it and really not using it very much at all anymore. I haven't
Yeah.
put like a ban on it as such, but I can definitely see some not so good things about porn creeping over into my life and into my intimate relationship. So yeah, that's something I changed. But masturbation, all for it.
Yeah.
Tammy?
I think I agree with you. I probably, like you, use it as not necessarily like the masturbation itself, but like whether or not I want to as an indication of how my health is, or whether I'm like striving too much in my life in other areas. Am I too stressed or whatever's going on? And it makes me kind of rethink and evaluate things. It's definitely one of my check-in things. In terms of underrated, I think I grew up in a very religious family, and I'd never had the talk, and at school we didn't have sex education, so I had no idea about anything, and like it was taboo to talk about it with any of like your friends and things. Like you were almost like an outsider if that was what you wanted to talk about. So for me, I feel like it was underrated because I feel as though as like a female especially, discovering yourself and discovering your body is a really important part of learning to enjoy the process of sex with your partner. I mean, everyone has a different view of what they want from sex and their relationship, but to me, it's not only to like show love and affection. I think there are different styles and different times that are appropriate, but I want to enjoy it. And a part of enjoying it is knowing myself and helping my partner to know me as well. And I'm totally fine to be like, this is what I like and what I don't like, because it is a give and take scenario. I'm not, I don't know, I guess like I also have a lot of friends who are potentially lesbians, and like one of their things is they'll say, well, like how many times have you orgasmed, like with a guy? I'm like, actually quite a lot, but it's because I've also like taken the initiative to figure out what I need and help guys figure out what I need as well. So yeah, that's why I think for me it's underrated.
Nice. I'm just going to jump in there and say that I know that females are much more aroused by things like connection and feel, and men are just like very visual. That's why I think generally men will gravitate towards pornography, because it's just a visual stimulation. That's all we need.
Well, I think people are different. I
think there's a general theme
True.
though.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
more masculine, feminine.
I would say underrated, just purely from like my female point of view. One, I think very similar to you guys, like it is kind of like a check-in, and it's almost like a check-in when I haven't, and I'm like, oh, okay, like what's up? Like, am I not feeling it? Is it just like mental? Is it like physically I'm drained and you don't have that? I also think like it was very taboo again in my upbringing, not only like at home, but also along like my friendship circles and the different places I lived. It was weird because I was moving countries so often. I always missed the like sex ed talk. Like
you never had it from your parents, either of you?
Like
I never had it from my parents.
I kind of had the sex ed of when you get your first period, that stuff. But the self-exploration, not really. And I guess like from my experience, I actually kind of never really felt comfortable even exploring that side of myself until I was actually with someone else. So, and I think since then it's been like a massive journey for me as well, which is why I find it like severely underrated, but also underrated to talk about. Like my girlfriends and I, even my guy friends, can talk about it now like really freely, which is, I never really had that growing up either.
And who'd have thought you'd be talking about it on a podcast for the world to listen to?
Let me tell you how I feel about masturbation.
Yeah, you know the birds and the bees conversation. That's like the sex conversation you get from your parents.
Well, no.
But
there's only one. It was only one of my friends that ever had it.
Oh really?
Yeah,
But
and yeah.
when they say the birds and the bees conversation and like the sex talk, I
Yeah.
feel like there's so many different topics in that, because for a female you can have like the talk, which is actually when you start kind of maturing and you get your period and you understand what that means, and then that kind of goes into why you have periods and then the sex. But
I can
lots of
only
different birds
obviously
and the
speak
bees
about it
talks,
from the male perspective, because all my friends that's
Wear
what
protection.
Wear protection,
and
don't
it really came from, I would honestly say American Pie was like a massive influencer, because you know like American Pie the movie was like very cultish back in the day, and like me and my friends loved that movie so much. And Jason's dad comes in, and Jason Biggs is the actor. What's his name in the movie? Can't remember. Anyway, his dad has like the birds and bees talk and sits with him on his bed and like brings out porno magazines. And that's what I thought. That's what me and my friends all thought our talk's going to be like. Dad was going to come in with a porn mag, and you were going to look and be like, this is a vagina. These are breasts. These are nipples. And my friend actually had one of those talks. His dad bought him a Playboy magazine with Pamela Anderson on the front. And obviously, like,
I feel like I know this person.
Here you go, son.
No, I don't think you do know this person. Okay. But this person came, he brought his, obviously, it was like a really nice Playboy thingy as well. It's like a proper hardback. It was like A3. It's fucking massive. He brought it into school being like, look what my dad just came in. He was like 2 years too young to be having that talk, but his dad just did it anyway. And we were all just like obviously frothing over this book and being like, oh, I can't wait for mine. But none of us ever had it. Yeah. And I don't know if I'll have it if I ever have a son. Anyhow, we're talking about masturbation a bit too long. But
going off this,
finish
actually. Interestingly enough, when you were bringing this up beforehand, we were talking about the topics. I was actually listening to a podcast of the Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
And the topic of masturbation actually came up, and they were talking about it. And they said it wasn't like an overrated, underrated, but I guess in their context, they were saying it's overrated for people in relationships. No, single people, but underrated for people in relationships. Because they were saying if you actually masturbate a lot and you're single, look, I'm almost getting that like hit and the release, and it's like in the comfort of your own space and you're alone. But it's not actually taking you outside into society to potentially meet a partner, not just for sex, but actually to connect and feel that connection with someone.
And that's a problem that came from pornography for me. For sure. Okay. It's like it's a quick dopamine hit. It's like you don't have to work for anything. Obviously the false illusion of what it actually is and what it really is. Yeah. And it also places so much emphasis on like the physical act of what you're seeing, which meant that like sex for me when I was younger was like about reenacting the porn that I was watching.
Yeah, it skews what reality is.
Yeah, exactly. When sex, like you said, it could be so much more than that. Not just pleasure, but it could be connection. It can be building a relationship. Like there's nothing more intimate than two people having sex.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Good.
Thank you guys. Thanks for sharing.
Welcome.
Okay, moving on to number 7, overrated, underrated, standing desks.
I love how we've gone from masturbation to standing desks.
I bring some energy into standing
Bringing
desks.
it down.
I had to bring some energy into it. Overrated.
This is definitely one I told you to take off the list.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's overrated for me because overrated. Tammy?
Underrated.
3, 2,
Underrated.
underrated. Tammy, why overrated? Why underrated?
So when I was thinking about whether it was overrated or underrated, I know that we had something that was potentially nearly a standing desk.
In this office, yeah.
I think just given the context of what we do in our careers, it wasn't necessarily applicable. But I think that so many people in offices experience a lot of back pain. Obviously, if you had like a really good chair, you could probably make do with it. But I just think that as someone who likes to promote movement and likes to try and get people to just be a little bit more mindfully active through their days, a standing desk is a really great solution. But it comes with its other problems as well. So
Yeah, I guess I'm just going to play devil's advocate and say
please do.
Overrated.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people think that their health issues like pain, being overweight, are going to be fixed with this like magic pill of getting a standing desk and all my problems will be solved.
Yeah.
And I think putting into in the grander picture of what really impacts health and wellness, like standing up for a bit longer in a day. I'm down for movement. I'm totally down for like the idea of standing more and like using the body for how it's designed to be used.
Yeah.
And not losing that ability to do that. But I think people place a bit too much emphasis on what changes they think are going to happen by having a standing desk.
Yeah, absolutely. I could agree with that. Oh, it's always context, isn't it? It's just so hard to be like it's the right or the wrong thing for anyone.
Exactly. Anything to add?
No, I only said underrated because I actually find myself standing and working a lot of time at home. So I was just thinking my own.
So I had a standing desk at home and I found that I couldn't really get comfortable and put in like long stints of good work. And I would get like lethargic, just like I'd end up slouching and like probably creating some new weird positions that are even worse than sitting. So then my actual productivity was then hampered. So then I moved to a kneeling desk. And so I've got a kneeling chair and I've had that now for probably like 5 years. And I love the kneeling chair. Like it keeps my hips open. Again, it's like, it's not that comfortable. So about after an hour, I kind of have to get up and move around. I like that it puts my knee into flexion because I kind of need that to keep my knee in flexion. So I really like the kneeling chair. Yeah. I do find like being in this office and working here, I do find like I do slump into not ideal postures. But again, who's to say what's a good or bad posture as well, right? Cool. Yeah. Moving on for standing desks.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe we should have removed that one. Number 8, almost there. Prescribing percentages for training.
Oh, we've had a similar conversation.
Overrated.
Or underrated. I was like, wait.
That's a game we've been playing for 30 minutes.
Number 8. Tabby's gone. I would say overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah. Tammy, why overrated?
Okay. I'm going to probably talk specifically for our sport. I know we've had it on this podcast before, but I just think that given the demands of what we do in the sport and it's never necessarily random, but just the variance we have from day-to-day training and week-to-week training, it's very hard to set exact percentages. But at the same time, if it was a percentage range, I feel as though I would feel differently about my answer.
Yeah.
I just think in our sport specifically, it's not necessarily setting people up for failure. That's not the case. But I think that the likelihood of having them experiencing disappointment in their performance based on not being able to hit certain percentages given the demands of their previous days, it comes up a lot more. And the more you have that, the more, people feel down about their training and don't feel like something's working. But we see programs where it works for people. Yep. So hard one.
And different sports, right?
Yeah, I think in a nutshell what we're saying is that there are so many things that contribute to what one can give on a given day to their workout and performance, that by giving someone a specific number, whether it's a weight or a percentage, is very hard. I think what we really try to promote is building self-awareness. So getting people to know about what they really do have to give on a given day, and that's so many things that go into that, and then making an educated guess or making an estimation as to what's appropriate for that day. And that's why I also like percentage ranges. I think giving people a rough idea as to what it should feel like, or rough loads, and then giving them the autonomy to then make an appropriate selection.
For sure.
Agreed.
I think as well, it just depends. Is it a group program or is it a PT where you're there and you're going to then prescribe it as you're going through? Is it someone you work with every day or is it someone you hardly see? What is their training age? Like there are so many things that come into play. But yeah, as a general standpoint, still
Overrated.
overrated.
Okay, number 9. Cold showers. Overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
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 You sure?
No. I just wanted to give an answer.
I mean, you watch Chris Hemsworth. It's Limitless. I'm surprised you're not jumping on the underrated bandwagon.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there are so many different methods to do the same thing. So, like...
Okay, well, let's quickly talk about the benefits of cold water exposure. So, no, I mean, the main reason is, like, a stress tolerance, right? Yeah, right. So, it's like you're building the tolerance to a stressful situation.
Yeah.
And if you could do that with something like an ice bath every morning, let's say, then your ability to tolerate other life stresses, you're going to be able to have coping mechanisms to be able to deal with that. Another thing people use it for is like actually for like a weight loss thing. Like they do deliberate induced shivering where their body is expending a lot more energy to stay warm. I wouldn't say that's the best way to lose weight. There's much easier, less painful ways to do it. And there's a lot of like immune system support that comes from like exposure to hot and cold temperatures. The reason I said Chris Hemsworth, because if anyone's watched Limitless, there's an episode where he surfs in like the Arctic and he gets into a sauna. It's pretty cool.
I actually love that.
If you haven't watched
it as well.
it, honestly, would highly recommend. I think, you know, as people in the health fitness industry, I think it's stuff that we already have knowledge on, but I love that there's such an influential figure doing something like this that's
using
now
his platform,
draw attention to the fact that providing stress on your body in specific doses for a specific purpose is really good, and how you can manage your stress and how to like deal with stressful situations. I think it's so important for, you know, Gen Pop and us as well, as a great reminder.
Yeah.
I like that he wasn't trying to like redefine the wheel as well. No. It was like wasn't like new protocols, which like here's what I've just discovered that you should do, which I feel is a lot in present day media. And he was just like, these are the things that have worked for years and years and years and years. I'm gonna try them. I haven't been doing them. Let's see if it impacts my life.
Recommending it to everyone.
They keep it so simple as well. I think like
such
one of the
relatable.
One of the hard parts of all of that is you can get super nerdy and sciencey with it, which of course draws in the attention of certain people. But this is really, you know,
understandable.
Yeah, understandable.
Digestible.
Really digestible.
Yeah. So cold showers, my general prescription would be do it in the mornings rather than nighttime. It is stimulating a stress response after all. I feel amazing after my cold showers. I do have to admit though, in Hong Kong, like in the summertime, a cold shower isn't really a cold shower.
It's not that cold, is it?
No, it doesn't give me like the gasp reflex.
Yeah. Well, you don't even need to have a cold shower. I think it's the case of like you could splash your face with cold water.
Yeah, so I think
do you do your whole shower as cold?
No, I used to. So when I first went down the Wim Hof rabbit hole, probably like 6 years ago, I went every day. Like I would have to I'd be pumping myself up. I'd be like, and I'd step in the shower and slam it on cold straight away. Yeah. And that would be after like 4 minutes of breath work first thing in the morning. Yeah. And then I got to a point, actually, it was when I went on holiday to Norway with my ex-girlfriend where it was like snowing and unbelievably cold. I started doing that in Norway. I was like, nah, this is just too much.
It's too cold.
So I started then going hot and then going to cold, and I stuck with that habit now.
See, I did this, and then I was actually talking to one of my PT clients about it, and he was like, no, if you start hot, you're just cheating because then you go cold. And I was just like, anyway, that's got in my head. So every morning I'm like, I can't start hot now. And I think of him. I'm just like, I tell him all the time. So I start cold. But you're right. The water in Hong Kong is not cold.
Like it's quite cold right now.
When I was in New Zealand over the Christmas time, even though it was summer there, flippin' heck, the water is cold there. And I try and do like 5 deep breaths on my front and then turn around and have like 5 deep breaths and then I turn it to warm. So it's not like a full cold shower. But still, like in Hong Kong, it's not that cold.
Yeah.
I wonder if the warm to cold would actually be
no, it's easier. Oh, well, sorry, but beneficial.
Like
the contrast is bigger, so the shock in the system's actually bigger. But yeah, it's not extreme cold. When I moved into my new house, we had a chance to kind of design the house. I actually looked into installing like a freezing cold water thingy. I don't know, something that makes So I looked into it. Cooler, that's probably what I was looking for. But I mean, like easy to make water hot. Why can't we make one that makes it really cold? But I couldn't didn't look very hard, to be honest, but I thought the idea was cool.
So you start with the heat and then go.
Start with the heat, go into cold, try and hit about 45 to 60 seconds until it feels comfortable. And then I actually feel amazing. I feel like amazing that the 10 minutes straight away after, I feel like really energized.
Like
I feel
alert.
warm. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like focused. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really love it.
I really love it in the morning.
Yeah, I never used to be a person that would shower in the morning because I always like rolled out of bed and be like, all right, well, got to get to the morning classes.
Yeah.
But now it's part of my routine. It's like a short dip in and get out. But I agree. It makes me feel much more alert and awake. And I
Yeah.
like the feeling of being clean.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Clean.
Okay, very last one. Overrated, underrated. Measuring body fat percentage.
Overrated.
I'm going to say underrated. Three, two,
Underrated.
one. Okay, yeah. So context. I think context is super important. This
Yeah.
because I would say personally overrated because I don't do it anymore. But I would say underrated for the general population. And I'll tell you why I say underrated.
Okay.
I think just having a means of tracking progress doesn't have to be measuring body fat percentage. It can just be weight. It can be measurements. It can be photos. It can be feel. But I think for people to have a metric, I think to be a part of like a more holistic tracking process, I think is a cool thing to. I just think everyone should go through it at some point in time. If you're making manipulations to nutrition, training, lifestyle, go through an experiment where you're geeking out hard. This is just my own personal preference. What I did. It's the same with like measuring food. Like I think it's a really good thing to go through at some point in your life just to experience it,
Yeah.
and then to not be something you rely on forever. But my 2 cents. Tammy, you got something on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. I think I'm like really on the fence because I'm like, it really depends on the method. For me,
Also, yes.
yeah, like if you have someone doing your caliper testing, like they really need to be skilled at doing it. So the inaccuracy that comes from human testing, for me, I'm like, is it really indicative? Like maybe they can skew the results as well. Then also,
I'm guilty of doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
In my younger coaching years, like if I would do an umbilical site and suddenly I'd realize it was like 2 millimeters up, and this person is like,
oh my God, Ed.
I'm not gonna, yeah, I've done it before. I would skew
Thank
the
you for
results.
your
I'd be like,
honesty.
you're only 1 millimeter above. I'd be like, no, that was actually 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But I'd
Right.
realize I was totally shooting myself in the foot because next time he's gonna come back.
Be
Yeah.
even bigger.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I
Sorry,
don't know.
clients.
I think as well, like there are just methods out there, like your general scale that you can now buy at the store that like reads body fat percentage, but it
Yeah.
just doesn't take into consideration some other things. So if for me, someone really wants to go down the route of testing their body fat, bone density scan. I know it's not feasible for everyone.
You mean like a DEXA scan?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
most accurate way. And that for me would be like, okay, now you're actually doing it with proper data. But
Not
that's
that
just
accessible, but
the nerd in
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
so were you overrated? You were overrated.
I said overrated.
Yeah.
I just think and I'm just thinking of like Gem Pop and like everyone, I completely agree with you that you should kind of go down the experiments of everything in your life. But I think there's so many other ways that we can help and track progress or measure progress for someone. And I think a lot of people automatically, we even have clients that come in here and they're like, I need to know my body fat. And that is, everyone's just laser visioned on that. And that is a
Can create an unhealthy relationship for sure.
It can create an unhealthy relationship. And I mean, I've tested my body fat in the past and I've kind of gone through phases of it, and I understand that kind of relationship with it. I just think a lot of people put too much emphasis on it in terms of what they define as health and healthy.
Yeah.
And you can be at a certain body fat, i.e. like really low but really unhealthy, and especially as a female, I've been through like this journey with Tammy myself on actually wanting to put on body fat because I need to have a higher body fat. So I think like I would say
for your hormonal system.
for my hormonal system, correct.
Yeah.
So I think again, it's all about context. It's all kind of about what people want in their goals and what they define as healthy. But I definitely think people jump the gun on, I need to know my body fat, and that is defining me on every area of if I'm fit, if I'm good looking, if I'm healthy, if I'm
I
everything like
really
that.
Yeah, your
like to
fitness.
jump
Yeah,
in here.
thank you for bringing that up. That's a
Yeah.
really good point. Yeah, Tammy.
love what Lottie said. Like as she was speaking, I was like, yes, I know exactly what I want to say. So I just think what Lottie said is great. All body shapes and sizes can be healthy or unhealthy. It's not a definitive factor. Of course, you have ranges where we know beyond a certain point it is unhealthy, and below a certain point it is unhealthy, but you could be in healthy ranges and still be unhealthy. I think, like she said, people have laser focus on two things, either the number on the scale or potentially their body fat. And like you said, it can really develop an unhealthy relationship. And I think people are so fixated on that they forget to look at all these incredible things that are happening to their body and how they feel. So for example, how are you performing? And performing doesn't have to be gym performance. It's how you're performing in terms of like your relationships, your ability to communicate, your mental acuity, your ability to be
sex drive as well.
Yeah, your sex drive, your ability to perform in the gym. Are you progressing with things or not? Your career. There are so many factors. Are you being a good parent? Then there's also, how is your skin, or how, do you have less bags under your eyes? Do you look more like your skin is glowing as opposed to being, emaciated or like gaunt? There are just so many other factors that come into play. It's really like, if you are healthy and if you are doing things in favor of your health biomarkers will be good. Your stress management will probably feel easier. You'll feel less overwhelmed with the same amount of stuff on your plate. Your sleep's probably going to be better as well. Because of those two things, we know they affect your waistline. So you're probably going to look better and feel better in general, less achy joints and all these things. So it can be a great tool for people who are maybe a little bit more objective, but I think a lot of people aren't, and they're super subjective, and it's really hard to detach that feeling and self-worth from those numbers. So I'm gonna say overrated, because I think there are so many other things that people could focus on that are indicative of progress.
Nice.
Agree.
Yeah, I think in just reflecting on my own journey with percentage body fat, and it started with, as a rugby player, we would get tested probably every 3 months, but there wasn't much emphasis placed on where you had to be. It was just, let's just collect some data and see if you're trending in the right direction for your position, and if you're gaining weight, what kind of weight is it. But then I guess as I became a coach, then I went through a phase of placing a lot of importance on the way that I looked as a coach, thinking that would have a knock-on effect to my ability to coach, which is ridiculous. The two really aren't linked. And went through many experiments of trying to manipulate nutrition or training or lifestyle, and then using body fat percentage as my metric to determine whether I was being successful with it, but nothing else. And I find that even though my relationship with my body image has really evolved a lot, there's still a part of me that definitely cares about the way I look. And every time I step on a machine to measure my percentage body fat, even though I'm not stepping on it with the intention of determining how successful the last 3 months has been based on the number I'm about to see, but it triggers something in me. You know what I mean? It's like I could be feeling fantastic, no aches and niggles, feeling fantastic, sleeping well, high sex drive, good appetite, no gut stress. And I could step on a machine and see that I've gained 2% body fat. And suddenly it's like, all of that doesn't matter. And I have to catch myself doing it now to be like, that doesn't actually matter. And I've actually found in the last year, I've hardly stepped on that machine compared to maybe the year before that. Because it's like,
and I think that's so hard, like, especially when we're doing like our consultation and everything like that, that's why you have to dig deep in the conversations when we have clients coming in, that is it really relevant, but also explaining everything else, like Tammy said, the lifestyle around it, that we're not getting fixated on these numbers. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people do, or they even look at you as a coach and they're like, what body fat percentage are you? As if like that's going to define how well you can coach something.
I think there's a really big difference between looking good and feeling good as well. And when people put or associate a specific number with like success, it's kind of the same as someone in a career that's chasing money and feeling like, okay, once I get to this number, I'm going to have everything. But we always find that those people never reach that point.
Process versus the outcome.
Exactly. So like a lot of people would enjoy the process of it so much more if that's what they wanted to focus on, and like enjoy the journey of it. It's a beautiful journey. It's incredible to see the like little changes in life. Like I love digging through people's minds and being like, what are you like getting from this? Like, what do you actually want from your training? And they're like, you know what? Today I ran around with my kids and picked them up, and like I didn't realize, but our training has really helped that. Like before I couldn't do this, or like it was harder, and they're older now, so they're heavier. Like look for the cool shit. There's always little things that are there.
Awesome. Ladies, I think that's a great one to wrap it up on. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Hey, Bosh.
And hope you enjoyed this game of Overrated and Underrated.
Yo.
Until next time.
Bye.